A common thing that I'll see when holding the baby is we will hook our arm and hand around, and that can be really straining on the wrist and the hands. We'll often have hand pain. So, a trick that I like to use is hooking my forearms underneath baby's bum. That way, I have a ton of support with both my forearm and my additional hand underneath. If baby was a little bit younger in this position, I could also put my hand behind his head to help offer a little bit of extra support. So if they went into a startle reflux, they have a nice bit of support here and they won't go all the way into back extension or potentially even try to flop out of our arms, as we've seen them all try to do. So, when you're holding your baby, something to be mindful of is your wrist position. Oftentimes, I'll see that our arms are really stretched, our wrist is really flexed, and that can be really straining on these joints. So, a technique I like to use is place your forearm under the baby, and you could even use this extra hand for support. And if you wanted, especially with a younger kiddo, you can use that forearm to support them and place a hand right behind their head. That way, if baby went into a startle reflex or the Moro reflex, you're going to have a little hand support there where they're not going to fully go into back extension or potentially kind of try to dive out of your arms. Often, when I see people holding their babies, our hips are jutted out to the side. What we want to make sure of is that we're in really good alignment. So I know that the hip bone can offer a good amount of support, but we really want to rely on our core being vertical and our forearm support when we can. If we can avoid hooking our wrist under and instead offering an additional hand of support, this is going to be really supportive for baby. If you still find you can't get yourself vertical when they're off to your side, I will recommend bringing baby around to the front of you using your forearms with a nice hand behind. And then they're going to be nice and cozy and a lot easier to hold. A common mistake I see when holding babies is that we often use our hip and pelvic bone to support the baby. It is a good area to use support typically, but this is going to really cause some long term issues in our posture. So, when you're holding the baby, try to be mindful and upright your hips so that they're nice and stacked and even. And if you can, try to avoid wrapping your wrist around while baby's off on your hip. If you can use more of your forearm and keep your hand flat, that's going to be a lot more supportive for baby. And then just again, be mindful when you find yourself jutting out, drop that hip in and try to stack yourself up. Take a nice deep breath, and then you know you're holding your baby with nice support.